Today we are going to be talking about how to sketch effectively. We've got lots to do, so I'm going to move on. Please feel free to obviously pause and repeat anything that may have gone a bit quickly. So we are going to learn why we sketch quickly and effectively, understand the principles for sketching including isometric, orthographic and exploded diagrams. We're going to learn about some common rendering techniques, and we're going to apply this knowledge to our projects in class. So why do we sketch? Well, it's the language for capturing thoughts and to be able to communicate your ideas to others. You need to do it efficiently. You need to be able to turn ideas around and be able to sketch quickly so you can ask me for questions, for instance, to be able to communicate with a team. It's to be able to share concepts, to be able to have a back and forth and to be able to communicate those ideas. But I'm not an artist, they say. Well, you don't have to be pretty. This is about trying to do the best that you can. I'm going to try and offer you some skills to be able to do it a little bit better. But ultimately, if you struggle with this, that's what annotations are for, because you're still communicating your ideas. It's also about solving problems, because if you start to sketch, you start to realise that actually, oh, it could be this or it could be this, and you start to get a real flow of ideas and new concepts. And if you do struggle, make sure that you practice. Practice, practice, practice. That's what makes a difference. So let's go through a few examples of some really effective technical sketches. So here is obviously a post box. Now I like this one in particular because you can still see we've got the rough outlines, we've still got the guides, the crating. We'll go through that later. It just gives us a suggestion of things like shadow and shape and depth, and you can tell that this particular designer hasn't focused on any one particular idea. And if we go on to the next one, this is very different. So this is really effective because it's using some watercolor washes to give a suggestion of color, give some vibrancy, and the fact that we've included some people and tables gives a real sense of scale and proportion. We know that this is an atrium to some kind of really interesting looking building. Here's a very different kind of communication idea. So here is obviously some kind of web page or program front, and in this place we want to actually be able to communicate through annotations primarily. What do these little bars actually do? What's their function? It's all about function. Here's some classic product design style sketches. Again, very effective. We can really get a sense of the shape and the curve, the different variety. You get a sense that it's probably something to go in your hand, some kind of electronic device or remote. The fact that it's been laid on a surface, so you get some shadow and some shape. And we can see that there are numbers, which would suggest that there are some annotations and some labels to go with it. And here's a really interesting one, obviously, of a variety of different ring designs, all based off one main concept of a sort of big chunky circular stone that goes in the centre. And I think this is great because you can even see in places where it's been overlapped, the designer has just flowed, has let the ideas flow through them. They've got a few dimensions and some shadow just to give a sense of shape and purpose. But I would, and we can see some coloured pencil marks here, which would suggest that actually this person's just continued. This has been one process. So what have we learned? Well, sketching is for rapid idea generation. You want to make sure that you push past those first surface ideas. So many people get stuck on just that first idea. They go, this is the one I'm going to do, and then they just do it in really lots and lots of detail. Well, you're actually limiting yourself. You might surprise yourself and find you come up with something even better. Okay, withhold your judgment. Let them flow. Don't worry if they're any good. If they're rubbish, that's fine. You're showing me, you're showing the examiner, for instance, if you're doing your NEA, that actually you've come up with a variety of ideas. You've decided that one of them is rubbish and you're going to do something even better. That's good. Okay, and just really help yourself. Hide that rubber. Don't let yourself start to pick at little things, go over it. Just develop that sketching technique. Just lay over the materials you've already done. Go for it. Okay, let's talk about isometric projection. So this is a 3D drawing system based on 30-degree angles. In days gone past, we would use a set square that looks like this. We can use an isometric grid or isometric paper, and we still use that in class sometimes. We can also use an IsoSketch. So these are really useful tools. We have a couple of steps in school. Hopefully I'll get an opportunity to show you how to use them. So the fundamental is that it's based on a cube or a rectangle, and all the angles are 30 degrees from the horizon. And when you are drawing circles, you draw them as ellipses. That takes some real practice. Everyone still finds that tricky. I find it tricky to draw ellipses, but that's what we'll try and practice when we get an opportunity. So I've put some videos together for you. Oh, sorry, I'll show you in a second. Here's some examples that some Year 7s have done of some boxes on 2D design, but using the isometric grid. So if the Year 7s can do it, you certainly can. So here's some examples of some really useful ways of drawing isometric. So you can see it can be used for working drawings with dimensions. It can be used for concept designs. It can be a really nice way of actually showing things in a computer language, and even for video games. As I was saying, I've found some really useful videos for you. This one's quite long, but it's really worth a watch. The guy goes through how to use crating, okay, so as in putting things in a crate, like in a box. So putting things to using crating to draw freehand, and he uses a isometric grid under his paper as well. So I'd really recommend that one's worth a watch. There's another for you which is shorter, only a minute or so, and that's another really good example of using crating freehand. There's one more video for you which shows you how to use an IsoSketch. So if you watch that, if we get an opportunity in class to show you, you will be ahead of the curve, and you'll be able to actually have a little play with it, and you can watch that one now. Okay, moving on. Exploded diagrams. So they show how a product can be assembled and how the parts all fit together. You can see how how it's constructed, and there's no barrier to languages. So you'll typically find them on IKEA flat pack furniture is a really good example. And you can see how the screws have lined up, and they're designated about where they're supposed to go, how things are supposed to come together using these dotted lines. So whether it's flat pack furniture or kits like this helicopter or ships or tanks, to engineering products like this well-designed watch or these trainers, or even just a bog standard toilet, the exploded diagrams are used everywhere. They're really, really useful. And on to orthographic. So this is a different way of producing working drawings. So these are the ones that tend to be given to manufacturers by designers. It's to show every side in detail and internal components. It's basically like an X-ray of the product. So they are drawn to scale, such as 1 to 12 or 1 to 2 or 1 to 6. So you'll scale it down potentially, or it could be 1 to 1 if it's the same size. And you include dimensions. So this is called third angle orthographic. Now, third angle is the most common orthographic projection. We're not going to worry about any others. And this is where anything that's you'd see on the right-hand side of the product is designated on the right-hand side. Anything that's on the left-hand side is on the left, on the top, on the top, on the bottom, and so on. The third angle image, this logo, actually is supposed to be a cone. So this is looking from above, this is looking from the side. This shows us which type of orthographic we're looking at. So how do we explain orthographic in a bit more detail? Well, if you imagine an object inside a glass box, and then you reflect or expand those images out onto the sides of the box, it might look something like this. Then if you could unfurl the box, unwrap it, then you'd actually have what the orthographic drawing is laid out to look like. Everything's in line, things are on top and bottom on bottom, and so on. So this is the fundamental principle for creating nets and developments. Think about it is you can actually colour in different surfaces, because some people find it really hard to visualize and rotate things in space in their mind. So if you're one of those people, think about just colouring it in. So for instance, the top here is coloured in red. What would you see from the top? Well, it would just be two rectangles. From the front, well, that's the bit that's got the most design. You can see the holes that go all the way through. And from the side, you'd only be able to see up to the top, so actually it'd be like an L shape. So these sides are called elevations. You can call them views as well. So plan, which is from the top, a front elevation, and a side elevation. So in a technical drawing, all the parts are lined up with one another. Okay, this ensures that the dimensions are really accurate. You can see here how we have the 3D version. So it's a simple shape with a tube running through the center. Well, how would we lay that out? Well, we'd have the front view here, and then you can see that all the sides are lined up with one another, and even the tube is lined up. And then from the side, we can see it as well. Hopefully you're starting to get the idea. We'll have a practice in class. So look at these images. What do they have in common? Have a little think. You could pause it for a second if you want. So the answer is that they are all rendered. They've all got texture. They've all got colour, shape. So we're going to talk about rendering. So to give a really professional finish, there's a few techniques we can use. The first is called the thick and thin, or thin and thick line technique. So any edge that's on the outside is thick. Any edge that's on the inside is thin. We have different pens that we can use. You can use a fine liner, or you can double up on your biro lines. Another technique we can use is a colour wash. So it's almost like having a sort of colour aura around the outside of our product, and that really makes it look to 3D. It sort of throws it at you, it makes it jump forward, it sort of lifts it off the paper. And you can see there's some really effective ones there. Another way is using a colour block. So rather than a wash all the way around it, you literally just draw a shape, typically a rectangle or a simple triangle, for instance, and you tend to use a contrasting colour, and that sort of makes the product jump forward as well. You can also render some texture. So if you use a sort of loose flowing movement, you can give the impression of a textured surface, like any of these. You can see the examples on the left for yourself. So have a think about what it could be used for, and things like acetate windows in packaging that we might be designing, that's particularly useful. So let's recap. So we've gone through isometric projection, which is using 30-degree angles. We've looked at exploded diagrams, which show all the component parts. We've looked at orthographic, where everything is lined up nice and neatly, and we include dimensions. And we've looked at rendering, thick and thin line, colour wash, colour blocks, and textures. So hopefully that was really useful. Make sure you give the other videos a watch, and I will see you in class. Bye.